Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of April 2025. I hope you're well. Let's get that out of the way. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Same as usual, there will be an extended that you can access at the end of this reading if you so wish to. Links for how to get hold of that are all down in the description box. Apologies for the late delivery of this reading. I've been quite unwell. So, anywho, we are here. So, let's get straight on with this. As I've been doing with all of the other signs, let's get an oracle card for you, which we will look at the end. So we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to cut the deck here. This is your oracle card. We'll look at that towards the end of the reading. And let's get these out and see what's going on with you. So can I have 3 cards for Virgo, please? What's Virgo need to know? Oh, goodness. Right. Well, we've got the Ten of Swords showing up here on its side. Can we have current energy for Virgo, please? The Moon, the Hierophant and the Ace of Pentacles. It's just a kind of lovely combination, but at the same time, a little bit frustrating. And what about what's coming towards Virgo for the rest of April? We have the Nine of Swords and we have the Emperor. Right, 4 of Pentacles is at the bottom of the deck. You know, I was musing on your energy before I started the reading, as I always do before I start any kind of reading. And the word that came to mind was paralysis. The phrase analysis paralysis is sometimes something that we can associate quite strongly with the sign of Virgo. And I'm feeling shades of it coming out here too, like in the same way. We've got, you know, potential for new movement, but we've got a highly complex set of circumstances that seem to be surrounding that and to a degree, if I dare say it, sort of shrouding that. And so the paralysis is in trying to work out where the fog is, what is real, what has substance, and make decisions and invest focus accordingly. Let's get these out here. Tell me about the Ten of Swords. Why is this here? So we have Page of Wands in the reverse, Emperor in the reverse. Oh, and the Four of Swords in the reverse. Well, yeah. Okay. Tell me about the Moon, the Hierophant and the Ace of Pentacles. We have Wheel of Fortune. Very nice. We have Temperance and we have the Fool. So we've got double Sagittarius energy plus a bit of Aries thrown in there too. We've got Taurus up here. We've got Cancer. And the more cards I'm pulling here, the more it gives some kind of credibility to this feeling that I've got, that it's like the new start is right there. It's right in front of you. The way in which you can metamorphise is right in front of you. But fuck me, if it isn't kind of... What's the word that I'm looking for? Obscured. I mean, obscuration is the only thing that I can really attach to this in any kind of meaningful way. It's like, it's there, but we can't see it. Maybe you can feel it, but you can't see it. It's not tangible yet. Tell me about the Nine of Swords and the Emperor, please. I need to know about these 2 cards here. Right, so we have the Tower, the Nine of Wands, and the Hierophant showing up again. So we've got double Taurus energy showing up here. Right at the bottom of the deck, we've got the Eight of Wands. So the first thing to note is that things are moving, whether you realise it or not, Virgo. And I think that's probably quite difficult to get a hold on right now, because I think the paralysis is very real. And it's not just a case of not knowing what is the right step forwards. It's almost like the limitations of things, the edges of things, the boundaries of things, they're all sort of dissolving, such that the substance of what you are experiencing, the substance of who you are, the substance of where everything lies, is not something that is easy for you to get a hold on right now. And there's something very interesting about these cards here. Because I've been mulling for the last few days on reactivity and crisis, and how there can be a way in which we become conditioned to make extraordinary leaps forwards in the face of crisis, right? And this is great, except that sometimes we can get conditioned to the point where we require crisis to give us something to act against, act to circumnavigate or act to counter in some sort of way. And I'm feeling this Tower, Nine of Swords, an Ace of Pentacles and the Fool, providing somewhat of a commentary on a recognition that in the absence of crisis, movement is still necessary, but it can be very difficult to delineate the edges of your experience, what is yours to control, what is not, what is actually even just fucking going on, when you are primed for some sort of you're primed for reactivity, let's put it that way. Now, of all of the signs, I think I would definitely want a Virgo or a Taurus involved somewhere if I had some sort of crisis that I had to navigate, right? Because you're very clear thinking about things. You particularly being a Mercury ruled sign. Resources are both important and also deeply understood. What can be grown from this resource, what can be harvested from this resource, right? And resources is not just your money, it's your effort, it's your attention, it's the time that you put into something, right? So you have a greater appreciation of that than a lot of other signs do, right? So you know exactly what is where, what's at your disposal, and how it is how it's best planted, nurtured, and then grown. But if you could be both spinning and paralysed at the same time, I think it would probably be a good way of describing the energies that I'm seeing playing out here. Now, apologies if I'm jumping around a little bit. Like I said, I haven't been very well. But let's start over here. Let's try and bring something coherent right the way through all of this, rather than me jumping around and kind of seeing all these things. Because the Ten of Swords on its side, for me, despite the protestations of other people that cards cannot be read on their sides, like, shut up, sit down, like, they can be read on their side. And for me, the implication of a sideways presenting card is that you have energy that is either on the turn, right? So we're going from the 10 in the upright to the 10 in the reverse, and we've caught it in a moment of time where that transition is happening. Or we have an energy that is kind of present, but not yet, for whatever reason, truly properly activated or realized yet. So we have something here that is of the nature of an ending with the Ten of Swords. Likely it is a way of thinking, a way of relating to reality. I mean, it's a Saturn card, right? So reality as is always going to feature in that somewhere. But it is Sun in Gemini. So, right, we've got this idea of illumination that comes by way of the Ten of Swords. It's about the acquisition of wisdom through the experiences, through difficult experiences, right, that challenge our mindset, challenge our thinking about things, challenge the parameters of our reality. Now that is there, and it is close. It has been close, at least in the recent past, but it's not yet fully activated. It's not completed. We haven't hit that point yet where we can say, okay, I understand the purpose of everything that I've been experiencing, or perhaps shying away from the things that I've been experiencing. It's simply that it's there. And I would say at this point it's probably intuitive. There's some intuitive part of you that's been tweaking and saying, well, something's coming to an end, but I can't actually put my hand on what it is. Now, we've got the Page of Wands showing up here in the reverse. Now, if the Page of Wands is about preparation for movement, then what we have here is an inability to prepare for movement because we don't know where the edges are. We don't know where the ending is. We don't know where Saturn is delineating the edge of our experience and say, this is where... this is yours to control within here. This is yours to action. And at least give you some idea of what you're working with so you can plan your next step forwards. And indeed, we see then the Emperor also showing up in the reverse. Now, if the Emperor is tactics and strategy and control and order, then what we've got here between these two cards is something far more chaotic than we would be feeling comfortable with. And I say we, because actually my Saturn and my Jupiter are both in Virgo. And I feel like with all the movement of the outer planets that are going on at the moment, it probably behooves us to look at those and see what effects those are having on our chart. Because when you've got big consciousness shifts that are happening on a collective level, not just on an individual level, I think that these outer planets start to play a much more significant role than perhaps we have, rather than backdrop stuff. It's like, well, no, this is working on the collective and it's working on all of this here too, on you individually. Like, the South Node is in your sign at the moment. That's a difficult thing for any sign to cope with. When the South Node's going through there, we're in a bit of a sticky place because we are trying to balance out the wisdom that we have accrued with the things that must be released and left behind because they are no longer for our highest purpose, right? It's quite a simplistic way of putting the energy of the South Node, but for the purposes of this will do. And the North Node, which is kind of pulling us all in a particular direction, is in your opposite sign, right? So representing the opposite of the way that you would like to do things, which is to focus on the detail and have a plan, have the resources all lined up, ready to go, everything be very orderly. We've instead got the energy of Pisces, which is not detail oriented. It's very much big picture. It's very much broad strokes, and it's very much faith driven rather than order driven. There's something kind of chaotic about it for sure. But Four of Swords reversed. The Four of Swords in the upright is a peaceful mind that is at rest and finding ways to recover from new truths that have been experienced. Then the Four of Swords would represent, a change to that. Now, ordinarily, I would say that the Four of Swords is about realizing that we have done enough taking a break, we have done enough stepping back. We've done enough of this integrative work where we're, kind of trying to find a way to assimilate the information that we've received as per the Three of Swords and the effect that it's had on our emotions. Yeah, find a way to navigate that and then return to the fold, if you will, in this new, improved, wise version of ourselves, except that isn't really happening. And so rather than emergence with a new sense of mental peace, what we've got is a kind of crackling around all over the place, probably massively overthinking about the fact that there is no clear step forwards. There is no way in which we can prepare for the future. There is no way in which order can be imposed on what feels like a very chaotic situation, and no sense of what it is that's changing at the moment that we are experiencing it change. Now, when we move into your current energy, we've got the Moon, we've got the Hierophant, and we've got the Ace of Pentacles, and this is an interesting combination, not least because the very first card, being the Moon, is representative of confusion, right? Where things are showing up under the light of the moon, they may look one way whilst actually being another, right? The obfuscation of the moon is sort of comes by way of highlighting only a few things, or the main body of the thing but lacking the detail, and the detail is what you would like, right? I'm thinking about when I look outside of my window on a moonlit night and I can see the mountain. I can't see any of the trees on the mountain. I can't see where, the fact that it is actually probably 6 different mountains and they're all kind of staggered together. But we've got one homogeneous lump of silhouette. And we don't know where the edges of that are, really, right? We can see the edges betwixt top of mountain and sky, but as far as the edges that way are concerned, we can't really perceive those. Where the ground's concerned, we can't really perceive that, not in the right way. It's dark, it's shrouded, it's not illuminated fully. I mean, what we really need in this situation is daylight. We see far more detail by daylight, but that isn't being offered to us here. So when I was saying at the beginning that I feel like the opportunities, whatever they are, for change, the opportunities for growth, the way that you can break out of whatever feels kind of restrictive right now, they are literally right in front of you. I don't think that you can see them, not fully. And I would go as far as to say that perhaps, Virgo, you're not really supposed to be able to see it at this point, because we've got the wise one here, Hierophant, right? So the same card as this one, which is another card that is associated with wisdom and knowledge. We see an old elderly chap here with 2 acolytes on either side. The acolytes are actually down here by the feet of the Hierophant. Fuck me, I've just noticed that video's feed has frozen, so we'll just get rid of that. We can look at these. We've got the idea of the passing on of knowledge, right? We've also got the idea of things that are stable and secure, because they always have been and because they pretty much always will be, right? Quite often we look at society as being something that is represented by the Hierophant, because it doesn't change all that quickly, right? Anything that happens on a societal level usually takes decades to work up to the point where something shifts. I remember when I did law A-level in like 1996, for example, right? And one of the most shocking things that came out of that to me as a 16-year-old beginning to, learn about the law, was to find out in the UK it only became illegal for a man to rape his wife in 1991, a scant 5 years before I was sitting there learning about the law. And I found that quite confrontational, because I'm like, I think I live in a civilized society, and yet that wasn't illegal until 5 years ago. Like, what the actual fuck, right? Now, that is to say that there is a benefit with the very stable, very secure, very slow-moving energy of the of everything that the Hierophant represents, right? Whether it's religion or society or things with a hierarchy and whatnot, because everybody knows where they are with it. But at the same time, there are the cons to that, which is that where change is necessary, where change is required, it takes a very long time to effect. Now, I'm looking at this, and I'm feeling a sense of a security that feels absent to you, but is actually there. What do I mean by that? I realise that sounds a little bit contradictory, right? That you yourself feel like things are destabilising. You yourself feel like things are not progressing the way that you would like to. Perhaps you're feeling like things are beginning to regress, possibly. But there's a support here. There's a safety net for you here. There's something that you've built that is supporting you, and you can't actually perceive how solid it is. Like, remember, the moon here is only going to give us really a partial indication of anything that is happening here, right? Rather than saying a partial illumination, we could actually say perhaps it's a fairly significant partial turning down of the detail of things, right? So the detail around the stability and security of your existence, whatever it is slightly eluding you. You can't really see that, and as a result you can't really see where to invest that energy and attention. But the opportunity for investing into a deeper level of security for you is right here. It's just eluding you right now, right? So then we have the Wheel of Fortune and the Temperance card and the Fool down here. I mean, this is all fire. This is all creative. This is all indicating the spark of not just something new, but something that becomes really quite expansive hereafter. And it's using a foundation that you have already created, but unfortunately, for some reason or another, are largely oblivious to at this point. Now, we could say that potentially what the issue is that there is an over-reliance on material security. You will notice that aside from the Ace of Pentacles, we don't actually have any earth. Am I right? We don't have any earth on the table at all. Apart from the Four of Pentacles down here, which is followed by the Five of Pentacles, right? These are deeply resistant to change, both of these cards, right? We've got a situation here where this man holding onto these pentacles is saying, absolutely no fucking way am I going to relinquish what I have spent so much time building for myself, right? So much time accruing. You'll notice that he's actually got pentacles under his feet as well there. He does not believe it's going to come back to him in any kind of meaningful way. And so, you know, perhaps in a state of fear, he's clutching onto the old. Now, the Four of Pentacles can also represent things like your core values and things like that, right? But I think it's quite important that we're looking at this from a resource point of view, particularly since we've got the Five of Pentacles showing up after that. Now, the Five of Pentacles is loss. It's lack, it's poverty, it's not having what you need. But more importantly, it is the fear of that, right? It's something that you perceive rather than something that actually exists in reality. Now, if we set these two cards against what we see here, you know, with the 30,000 foot view, it's easy to see how the moon would be obfuscating what is solid and secure in your life, where the new opportunities are, where the possibility for the new cycle awaits, where the healing is, the balance, the equilibrium, and this big force of the universe kind of working behind everything, almost elevating you in a way that you're completely oblivious to. Like, if your focus is here, fuck no, I don't want to change. I don't want to let go of anything. I am desperately fucking afraid that I will not have what I need. It seems to me to be contributing to the fog, which is showing, you know, which is actually occluding the fact that everything that you need is already here. I hope that you're following what I'm saying here, Virgo, because there isn't really any other way of getting around it. When the South Node is in your sign's in for a bit of a kicking, you know, and I've watched it happen with all of the signs since I became, you know, sentient to the fact that North Nodes were and South Nodes were a thing that existed, right? So I saw it through Scorpio, I've seen it in Libra, seen it now enter into your sign in Virgo, right? I think that's probably about the right timing of it. Each one of these signs emerges battered and bruised, but with a much clearer sense of who they are and what they're about and what life's about and all that kind of thing, right? Because it's a bit of a Shark Tank, right? There's a combat sports terminology there, right? Shark Tank is where you get put in the ring by yourself and you face off every other single person in the fucking gym in a big long line, you know, like minute each, and you just got to keep going and going and going, and it's awful. But it's not really representative of a real life situation or a like a real fight situation, right? People don't queue up like 20 deep to come and give you a fight. What it's doing is showing you where your limits are, trying to increase your endurance. Like, nobody thinks for a fucking second that you're actually going to win in a Shark Tank, but it's the exposure to that difficult energy that helps you improve your stamina, improve your strength, pace yourself. That's a big one too. And get you used to the action of it, so that instead of just losing your shit and flailing your arms around, you start looking to act more effectively, right? Because you're looking to preserve your energy, you're looking to preserve what you have in the tank and not expend it all on the first 3 people. Now, obviously, if you have never come across combat sports before, this is probably all going to be a little bit like to you. But I think the metaphor is quite a good one. We are going to leave it there, though, because the Wheel of Fortune is turning. The universe is bringing you something, or God, or the creator, or source, however you want to call it, right? There's something is happening here, and you are being taught something in this process. You are being healed. There is an equilibrium that is starting to emerge, even if you can't see it yet. And that's a, triumph over adversity, which is a lot about what the Temperance card is about, right? Bringing you to this point where new opportunities, new cycles, new directions are open to you. Well, fuck me, they're here already. But you've got some shit to wade through before you recognise that it's actually been in front of you the entire time. And where is all of this shit that you need to wade through? Well, it's not environmental. It isn't really outside of you at all, Virgo. It's inside. We've got the 9 of Swords and the Emperor, which is a very, very difficult situation to be in. This is the rest of April, by the way, because the Emperor is everything that I was talking about back here with this Emperor, right? It's the creation of order from chaos. It is planning, it's strategy, it's getting everything running very smoothly, like it's being at the top of a hierarchy and having smooth running of things beneath you, because shit is delegated to those who are best suited to deal with that, right? And the Emperor is somebody who makes the big decisions, but is also in some respects like a figurehead. Now, the energy of the Emperor, as set against the 9 of Swords, suggests to me that you are trying to do all of those things, particularly for the rest of this month. But you're doing it from a place where dare I say, your judgment is slightly compromised. Now, I don't know if this is because you are catastrophizing, and that's entirely possible, right? If you're overthinking, then it's almost certain that there's some catastrophization going on in there too. The 9 of Swords is all for me about how you manage your mind, or whether your mind is managing you, right? The fact that the 9 of Swords and the Tower are showing up together, and we've got this 9 of Wands here that feels, look at the look on his face. There's a kind of hunted, kind of guarded look on his face there. He's waiting for the next shoe to drop. He's waiting for the next crisis. Now, it kind of brings me full circle to what I was saying at the beginning. It's like, are you capable of taking advantage of new cycles as they present to you, leaning on a strength and a stability that you don't even know that you have, certainly a wisdom that you don't know that you have, without something being as of a crisis in front of you, right, that you are needing to react to? I've noticed this in myself somewhat. And if you overthink to the point that a lot of us do, if you catastrophize to the point that a lot of us do, usually under the auspices of an idea of needing to just prepare for the worst, because then, we've got a better chance of success if we've already anticipated things going wrong, right, in our search for perfection. If the crisis doesn't happen, if the Tower doesn't hit, how can you move from the place that you are in to something else? Like, where do you draw the power from that? Where do you get the bravery from for that? I think a lot of us have found ourselves realizing that we've spent a life in firefighter mode, right? There's a fire, put it out. There's a fire over there, put it out. And we become conditioned, we become used to that being the way that big movements happen. Now, devoid of crisis, devoid of a tower, devoid of a fire that you need to put out, can you move forwards without that? Now, it seems like a really simple question, and I'm sure most people would just simply say, yes, of course I can do that. But the Nine of Swords says that things have got out of perspective somewhere, and they need to be brought back into perspective before the Emperor has any hope at all of creating true order in your existence. Particularly if underpinning everything is a need not to let go of what has already been built, right? It was like, I cannot let go of this, I cannot, this is the way that I do things, it's the way that I've always done things, it's the way that I will always do things, and that part of me can't change. There's a deeply fearful underpinning on that one. And where there are questions of your security involved, naturally, as an earth sign, that is going to start you tweaking out just a little bit, right? But we see this Hierophant over here, and we see this Hierophant over here too. And what I don't get from this, either of these Hierophants, is a sense of rigidity. The rigidity is coming from here, right? More, it feels like obfuscated stability, obfuscated wisdom, obfuscated support that you can't quite put your hands on yet. You can't quite see it for what it is. It's almost like your eyes are out of focus when you're trying to hone in on what that is. And maybe it looks very different to what you thought it should look like. You know, in 2025, there's a fairly obvious combination of things that we would like to feel stable and secure, right? And maybe it's been that way for thousands of years in one version or another, right? So we need to have a house to live in. We need enough money in our bank accounts to pay bills. Obviously, that's, you know, from 20th century onwards. We need to be able to take care of business, Virgo. Like, we need to be able to do that, right? Whatever our business is, we need to be able to take care of it. But a lot of that is very environmental. It's very outside of us, right? So it's the job, it's the home, it's the resources at our disposal. But there's something stronger here than all of that. And I feel it here in the Hierophant for you. So it feels like there are preparations that you're trying to make. But it feels like it's expressing itself more as a desire to control. Right? Controlled loss. I accept losing just a little bit, but not too much. And that the Moon and the Nine of Swords here has got your perspective kind of, you know, a few degrees off where it actually should be in order for you to bring all this into focus. Because while you are catastrophizing and expecting the Tower to come along, notice that he's looking at the Tower right there. What we don't have is the Hierophant being able to do what it is that he does best, which is be strong, be stable, be secure, be predictable. He's here. He's right the way through all of this. And this isn't necessarily this isn't a person, Virgo. This is some aspect of yourself. This is some aspect also of your situation that is asking you to just focus on that. Like, there's probably a thing here about gratitude, you know, Virgo. Like, we get more of what it is that we put out a sense of gratitude for, right? It's just how the universe works, right? So when we are stuck in this kind of energy, no, I don't want to let it go. It's stable, it's secure, it's my foundation. You know, we put that energy out there, and what we almost assure is that we will lose it. Or we're going to spend all of our time being in a state of desperate fear that we're going to lose it. Neither of those are nice ways to live, to be fair. The reality of the situation is that you're actually in a really, really good position. And if you could take the time to focus on where your position is good, rather than allow yourself to vortex about disasters that have not yet happened, You're going to be in more of the energy of this. The control that you need to exert, Virgo, is not over your environment. It's not over your stuff. It's not over your resources. It is over your mind. It's the most powerful tool that you have at your disposal, and for the vast majority of us, we allow it to rule us, not the other way around. There's that whole saying about, being an excellent servant and a terrifying master, or dreadful master, or something like that, right? I think that's where you are right now, Virgo. You're waiting for the shoe to drop. You're waiting to be ambushed by something. And maybe there's an awful lot of effort going into trying to control the circumstances and the environment around you, when actually what's falling away, really, we need to allow that to fall away so that we can get some sort of clarity about where it is that we actually stand. But I do think that a reframing around what you have that is of the nature of wisdom, of the nature of security, of the nature of a kind of unflinching stability, in all likelihood this is probably something that exists within you somewhere rather than your environment. And the more that you can express appreciation for that, the more that will grow and this will recede. And with it, it will take that Nine of Wands and that Tower. If what you actually have to work with, if you take the overthinking out of the equation, is the Emperor and the Hierophant. In times that are so chaotic, nobody knows. Well, yeah, nobody knows which way is up. I read an absolutely outstanding quote by G.K. Chesterton the other day, and it said something along the lines of, there will come a point in the future where people will get hung for asserting that grass is green and things like that. Fuck me, if we're not exactly there right now, I don't know where we are, right? But if you take away the things that are being given undue weight in your mind, right? The disaster, the fear, the terror of letting go of some stuff, and focus on what you actually have, you're going to see that it's of the nature of the Emperor and the Hierophant. Strong, solid, dependable, reliable to a degree, also predictable, but certainly able, in the case of the Emperor, underpinned by this energy of the Hierophant, certainly able to start planning and strategizing forwards. It feels to me like you've handicapped your Emperor. And now the Emperor's busy trying to plan for disaster. And in the meantime, the things that are actually strong and stable, the things that do require the attention or awareness of them, are being roundly ignored. Let's have a look and see what this is. Transition. Now, you're not the only sign to have got this card. I can't remember who the other one was. It was one of the air signs, right? So Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini. You are in a state of transition right now, as we all are. Like I was saying, you can't have this much collective energy shimmying around and kicking things about without it having some sort of effect on us. But maybe it's vice versa. Right? Maybe we are having the effect on everything else. I don't know. But the point is, there's a transition going on here. And I would say there would be an argument for you being in a liminal space, but I don't think it's quite that yet, right? Because the liminal space would be somewhere between, I think, the Ten of Swords and the Ace of Pentacles, right? Where we have realization, we have an awareness of the wisdom that the experiences have given us, and we look unflinchingly at those and go, right, bitchin', okay, I know what I'm doing now, and then go invest your energy somewhere else, right? What we don't have is the liminal space proper yet, because you haven't quite entered into the closure and completion that the Ten of Swords requires, which is of the nature of the mind. Now, if we need to do something to try and nudge this card into its completed state, or representative of a completed state, then it's not unusual for us to need to take a step back from it, in which case we would end up at the Nine of Swords, and just make sure that the information that we're working with is accurate and is a proper reflection of what we are, what we're about. Because you've got an incredibly powerful mind, Virgo, and I fear you're letting it abuse you. The transition for you would be to have a look at this, go, am I catastrophizing? Am I actually reacting to what is happening or what I fear may happen? And dial down, where possible, the noise around that, to give yourself the space to focus on what is solid, what has meaning, what is a constant source of strength for you, whether it's religion or whatever. I mean, some of you may, be finding some solace in that. Almost kind of coming back to first principles, like, when you're having like a panic attack, and say, like, if you're with someone who's having a panic attack, and you say, like, get them to list 3 things that they can feel, 5 things that they can see, 7 things that they can hear, this sort of thing. The idea is we're trying to get them back into their body, because, briefly, for whatever reason, they are fucking sailing out of it, right? So you bring them back into their body. You feel to me like you've left it a little bit, and we have to bring it back to your body so that you can actually see what is going on here. The transition for you then would be recognizing that you are going through a process and allowing yourself the time to do that. This is really interesting. I'm going to go to the extended now. You're very welcome to join me over there if you would like to. Sorry about this camera missing business. The links for that are down in the description box below. There's self-eye, all this circle. If neither of those are your bag, that's not a problem at all. I would just say that however uncomfortable you are and however dreadful you think things are, it really is an overlay that is being put there by your mind. So if you can step back and start keeping, I don't know, a gratitude journal, right? Or a gratitude jar or something like that. Every time you come across something that actually you feel grateful for, put it in a fucking jar, like just there, so you can read it, so you can see that start to build up. Because what we focus on is what persists. You're focusing on this. You're completely missing all of this. But you are supposed to be. Because the way that you transition through this is to recognize what you are grateful for. Lean on that, invest into that, and build through that. All right, let's leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.